Okay, hi everybody. This is my first start of my ministry teaching, and the one I'd like to go with today is New Year's Eve. I was out and I got talking to someone. We was having this discussion, and during the discussion I asked him if he believed in God. He ummed and ahed and said no, he disagreed with Christianity, etc, etc. So I asked him why. He said he'd been through all that in his childhood with his family and everything else, and he preferred Buddhism. So there's a lot about Buddhism that is beautiful. So I said to him, okay, but Jesus said, and you should know this, that he is the way, the truth and the life, and nobody gets to the Father except through him. And he challenged me and he said, okay, so what's your opinion on Abraham? And I said, okay, so which part? What about? Knowing full well he was going to mention Abraham and Isaac. And he said, surely enough, that yes, what's my opinion on Abraham and Isaac and the sacrifice of his son? I said, well, what about it? It was never going to happen. And he stood with me. I was like, no, it was never going to happen. It was a test of faith and a test of obedience, and that was all. And I said to him, look, what happened afterwards? I said, did Isaac die? He went, no. I went, and what happened afterwards to Abraham and Isaac? I said, they were blessed. They were so blessed. And then, he thought about it. He was like, you know what, you've got me thinking a little bit here. But I came home, and over a few days I started thinking about it a bit more, and I was reading that part of the Bible again. And as I read it, I kept asking questions of God and of myself. What was really going on there? There was more going on here than just faith and obedience. And as I read it, you read the story, Isaac actually on the way to the mount to be sacrificed, he doesn't know that. He asks Abraham where they're going to get the sacrifice from. And Abraham replies and says, God will provide the lamb for sacrifice. Isaac never questions it anywhere after that. It says nowhere in the Bible where he questions it or anything else. They carry on. So I carry on reading, and they're building the altar, and then the next thing, Isaac is bound and laid on the altar, and Abraham's standing there with the knife over him. And I'm asking questions. Nowhere does it say Isaac at any point has put up a protest, has argued, tried to fight, question what's going on, question God. At no point. And then I started thinking, the revelation came to me that this was a lot more than just faith and obedience. This was about a real deep and personal relationship with God and knowing who God really is. And if you look at it, at no point in history, except for once, with Jesus, has God ever required human sacrifice. Ever. He abhors it. That's for other gods, false gods, lying gods. So they're there, they haven't argued about it, they haven't thought about it, they haven't even prayed to God to supply an alternate sacrifice other than Isaac. So Abraham must have known or had such faith and a deep knowledge of God and who he is that he never even worried about it. It didn't bother him at all because he knew, 100% knew, Isaac was not going to be sacrificed. So to come to that point of knowing who your God is and how much he loves you, to know he loves you that much, to know him that well, that you know full well that you can take your only son when commanded to be sacrificed, You don't question it. You don't pray against it. You don't pray for an alternative sacrifice. You just do it. Isaac at no point complained, fought, battled, or fled, tried to flee. Isaac did none of those things. Calmly just took what was happening and accepted it, because he knew also just who God is, who he is, knowing full well he was never ever going to require human blood sacrificed on an altar. So then you read about it a bit more. So you read about it a bit more and you look into the scriptures and you come to Paul, who says, sorry, I'm going to have to read this off of something, excuse me. Who said, okay, now if in fact Abraham was justified by works, he had something to boast about, but not before God. What does scripture say? Abraham believed God and it was credited to him as righteousness. Then you've got James. Was not our ancestor Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did, and scripture was fulfilled that says Abraham believed God and it was credited to him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. And I don't believe there's anybody else in scripture that is called God's friend, which means, because like he says, his plans are to prosper us, not harm us.